The auditorium buzzed with excitement as families filled the seats, clutching balloons, cameras, and flowers. On this proud day, students were about to cross the stage and step into a new chapter of their lives. Among the crowd walked a man with a commanding presence, a black Marine in full dress blues. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine, medals neatly aligned, and posture straight as a rifle. He wasn't just there as a guest, he was a father, attending the graduation of his only son. As he moved down the aisle looking for his reserved seat, heads turned. Some admired the uniform, others whispered quietly. But not everyone saw a decorated veteran. Two security guards, stationed near the entrance, quickly locked eyes on him. They approached with tight expressions and firm voices. "Sir, this area is for invited guests only," one of them said, eyes flicking skeptically over the Marine's attire. "I am an invited guest," the Marine replied, voice calm but resolute. "My son is graduating today. I have my invitation right here." He reached into his pocket and produced a folded envelope. The second guard didn't look at it. "We've had some issues earlier, we need you to wait outside until we can verify." The Marine stood still, shoulders squared. Around them, the cheerful murmur of the room began to quiet as people sensed the tension. He glanced at the guards, eyes steady, heart pounding not from fear, but from disbelief. After years of service, tours overseas, and sacrifices most would never understand, he was now being asked to leave a high school graduation, his own son's. The room grew still. The Marine stood tall, silent, as if bracing for a different kind of battle. The tension in the auditorium thickened like fog. Families that had been chatting moments ago now stared in stunned silence as the scene unfolded near the center aisle. The proud Marine stood tall, his uniform immaculate, but his dignity now hanging in the balance. "I told you, sir, we need you to step outside," one of the guards repeated, louder this time, not with aggression, but with the kind of dismissiveness that cuts deeper than shouting. "I've shown you my invitation," the Marine said again, holding it out with a steady hand. "My son is graduating today. That's why I'm here." The second guard shook his head. "We're asking you nicely. If you don't leave, we'll have to call the police." Gasps scattered through the rows. A woman in the back leaned over to her husband and whispered, "Isn't that a military uniform?" Another parent frowned, holding their child's hand a little tighter. A few pulled out phones, quietly recording. The sight of a decorated Marine being confronted like this, humiliated, really, in a room meant for celebration struck a nerve with many. Up on stage, seniors in their graduation gowns lined up, grinning and chatting nervously. But one young man, standing at the edge, froze. His eyes locked on the familiar figure at the center of the disturbance. His heart dropped. That was his father, his hero. And now, in front of hundreds, he was being treated like an intruder. His smile vanished. The diploma in his hands felt suddenly weightless. The Marine didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a scene. He simply stood there, surrounded by judgment, trying to preserve what pride hadn't yet been stripped away. And then, the room began to shift. The Marine's fingers tightened slightly around the invitation in his hand. He looked one more time toward the stage, toward his son, then slowly began to turn, each step heavy with quiet pain. A once proud walk now carried the weight of humiliation. For a moment, it felt like defeat. But then, a voice rang out. "Is there a problem here?" From the middle rows of the auditorium, 4 men stood up in near unison. Each of them wore civilian clothing, but their posture, composure, and calm command betrayed their past. Or present, lives in the military. The patches on their jackets, the quiet confidence in their gait, and the shared energy in their movement all told the story before any words did. They were Navy SEALs. Warriors. Brothers. The guards froze as the 4 walked forward, steady and deliberate, cutting through the tension like a blade through silence. The crowd watched, hushed and wide-eyed. Some stood, instinctively sensing a turning point. Others craned their necks for a better look, unsure what they were witnessing but unable to look away. One of the SEALs stepped beside the Marine and placed a respectful hand on his shoulder. "You're not leaving," he said firmly. "Not today." Another addressed the guards. "This man has earned his place more than most people in this room. If you don't recognize that, maybe you're the ones who need to step outside." The guards looked at one another, uncertain now, authority melting in the heat of presence and principle. The Marine, once alone, now stood flanked by his brothers in arms. No longer just a father under fire, he was once again a soldier among soldiers. And the room fell absolutely silent. History had just walked into a high school auditorium. A hush lingered in the air like a held breath, every pair of eyes fixed on the group now gathered at the center of the aisle. The 4 Navy SEALs stood shoulder to shoulder with the Marine, forming a wall of calm authority and quiet power. The guards, suddenly aware of the shift in energy, stepped back slightly, unsure of what to say. One of the SEALs, a tall man with graying temples and eyes hardened by years of service, took a step forward. His voice wasn't raised, but it carried through the auditorium like a command. "This man," he said, motioning to the Marine beside him, "has served this country with honor. He's worn the uniform with pride, fought for freedoms most of us take for granted. Including the freedom to sit in this room and watch his son graduate." He looked directly at the guards. "There is no reason, no policy, no protocol, that justifies treating him like a threat. Not here. Not today." The silence broke, not with words, but with applause. It started with one person in the back, then another. In seconds, it rolled across the auditorium like a wave. People stood. Some clapped. Some cheered. A few even wiped away tears. The Marine stood a little straighter. He didn't say anything, he didn't have to. The respect now flooding the room spoke louder than words. The SEALs remained by his side, but they no longer needed to shield him. The crowd had become his protection now, a community awakened, reminded of values like dignity, honor, and unity. Even the guards lowered their eyes, quietly stepping away, their authority stripped not by confrontation, but by truth. And above it all, the applause continued, echoing through the hall like justice finally having its say. The ceremony resumed, but the atmosphere had changed. A powerful calm settled over the crowd, not just the silence of attention, but the hush of reverence. People weren't just watching a graduation anymore. They were witnessing something unforgettable. The Marine returned to his seat with quiet dignity, flanked by the Navy SEALs who chose to remain by his side. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence alone now commanded the respect he had earned long ago, not just in uniform, but in spirit. When the principal resumed announcing the graduates, each name was met with polite applause. But when she reached one in particular, her voice caught slightly, as if even she was feeling the weight of what had just transpired. "Daniel Thompson, son of Master Sergeant Elijah Thompson." The room erupted. Cheers and applause surged like a wave. Cameras lifted. People stood. It wasn't just for a student now, it was for a moment. For a father and son. For justice seen, and honor upheld. Daniel walked across the stage, eyes wet, smile wide. But before taking his diploma, he did something unexpected. He turned, stepped off the stage, and walked straight down the aisle. He embraced his father. Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he held him tight in front of hundreds. "You didn't deserve that," he whispered. "I'm proud to be your son." The Marine, eyes misty, simply nodded. "I'm proud to be your father." Photos and videos flooded social media within minutes. News outlets picked it up hours later. The image of a Marine, his son, and 4 SEALs standing united at a high school graduation became more than just a moment, it became a message. One of courage. One of unity. One of what it means to stand your ground, with grace. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a short story or screenplay format next.